Now let's move on to the next topic. A hellish week for the Russian rear. Oil refineries, the shadow fleet, and ports are ablaze. Ukrainian drones and long-range missiles are methodically burning down strategic targets. While Russia's defense ministry claims astronomical numbers of downed targets, oil processing units at Russian plants are shutting down en masse. Danil Diomin reports on the chronology of devastating strikes and the enemy's fuel collapse.
The Saratov oil refinery. A massive drone attack and explosions. Several powerful sources of ignition and columns of smoke over the facility. According to preliminary data, the drones hit the isomerization unit. The facility supplied fuel to the occupying forces. As usual, the local authorities remained silent, only announcing a drone threat. That same night, the oil depot in the village of Matveyev Kurgan in the Rostov region came under repeated attack. This facility is critically important for the occupiers' logistics in the southern direction. It was burned out in a massive raid, and the glow from the fire could be seen by locals from kilometers away. The defense forces also struck the occupiers' port infrastructure. The day before, in Taganrog Rostov region, a tanker, a fuel reservoir, and an administrative building caught fire. But the biggest blow to this city was delivered by the special forces of the unmanned systems units. Pilots from the first separate SBS center visited the local military airfield. And they did so with remarkable success. At the launch site, they incinerated an Iskander operational tactical missile system, and on the runway, 2 long-range anti-submarine Tu-142 aircraft.
SBS drones destroyed an Iskander and 2 Tu-142 aircraft at the military airfield in Taganrog on the night of May 30th. The first SBS center's drones paid a courtesy visit to Taganrog.
In the Yaroslavl region, the Yaroslavl 3-key oil pumping station of the Transneft company caught fire. This strategic facility on the Surgut-Polotsk oil pipeline pumps crude oil from Siberia to the Baltic. At the station, 2 giant storage tanks burned down, with capacities of 50 and 20,000 cubic meters. In addition, the defense forces have officially confirmed the complete shutdown of the Syzran oil refinery in the Samara region and a large-scale fire at the Tuips oil refinery. This spring, it has already been attacked for the 5th time.
Yeah, that is perfectly fine.
The consequences of the shortage have already been felt in temporarily occupied Crimea. Starting from May 31st, a ration card system was officially introduced on the peninsula. At the gas stations of the largest networks, ATAN and TES, 95-octane gasoline is now only available with coupons, giving priority to municipal and special vehicles. As for 92-octane, no more than 20 liters are dispensed into a single tank, and filling fuel into canisters is strictly prohibited altogether. The occupation head, Sergei Aksyonov, is asking Crimeans not to panic and promises to normalize the situation in at least a month.
Filling into canisters is prohibited. The expected time frame for normalizing the current situation is 30 days. I ask Crimeans and guests of the Republic to remain calm and trust only official sources of information. The situation remains unchanged. There has been no gasoline for 11 hours.
In Sevastopol, gasoline has completely disappeared from most gas stations. The local governor, Mikhail Razvozhayev, is making excuses about logistical difficulties. The occupiers are afraid to transport fuel across the Kerch Bridge for security reasons, and the ferry crossing cannot cope with the demand. The only supply route is the land corridor through Mariupol and Melitopol. And there, Ukrainian drones are hunting around the clock. According to OSINT analysts, since the beginning of May, more than 120 Russian trucks have been destroyed on this road. Most of them were carrying fuel to refuel military equipment and supply the peninsula.
At ATAN and TES network gas stations, ultra-diesel fuel is currently available, but it is not offered at all locations. AI-92 and AI-95 gasoline are temporarily unavailable. Fuel deliveries are expected during the day. We will provide additional information once sales resume. We ask for your understanding regarding the situation.
While the Russian Ministry of Defense continues to report thousands of allegedly downed Ukrainian drones and advanced long-range missiles, reality has its own terms. Shut down oil refineries, paralyzed ports, and a severe fuel shortage within Russia itself clearly demonstrate the aggressor is no longer able to protect its own strategic infrastructure in the rear. Danil Diomin, Podrobnosti, Inter-TV channel Marathon United News.
And a logical question arises, where is the Russian air defense? What losses is the enemy suffering? We will continue the conversation with our studio guest. Vadim Kushnikov, analyst at the Military Portal, is our guest today. Mr. Vadim, so how do you assess the recent and in general the strikes by the armed forces of Ukraine, the Ukrainian Defense Forces, on Russian territory? These strikes, well, these are definitely good news that help keep our spirits afloat, so to speak. It is very gratifying to see that the enemy is being repelled and is receiving a response for every strike they inflict on our territory. But what is the real cost of these strikes for the aggressor?
Unlike the statements made by the Russian foreign minister about systematic strikes, our security and defense forces are indeed carrying them out, not by announcing them, but by doing their job. And we see that these actions, they are aimed at solving a whole range of tasks at once. First, these are strikes directly on military targets, ammunition arsenals, storage facilities for fuel and lubricants, and the various locations and deployments of personnel and equipment. The second aspect involves diminishing the adversary's capacity to reproduce military weapons and equipment, that is, conducting precise strikes on their military-industrial complex. And the third point from this list is directly striking the most highly profitable and strategically vital economic sector. This is specifically the fuel and energy sector. As for the total losses, indeed everything here actually depends on the method of calculation and metrics used for the assessment. But we can clearly see exactly what this leads to. First of all, it leads to a decrease in the production of military purpose goods. And the second aspect, plus
Military.
furthermore, that is not all. And the second aspect is precisely the significant reduction of the enemy's economic potential to generating foreign currency revenue. And we can see this in practice because as we look at the situation today, it seems that for the fourth time since the start of Russia's full-scale invasion, the Russian Federation has been forced to completely suspend the export of refined oil products, gasoline, diesel, and kerosene, which clearly demonstrates that our strikes are reaching their targets and are directly affecting the Russian Federation. Well,
yes, we have news that there is currently a gasoline shortage in Crimea, in temporarily occupied Crimea. There is a gasoline shortage. And here, one of the Russian mill bloggers wrote, and in my opinion, made a good joke. He says, it's a paradox. He says, hazelnuts, he says. We have, but we don't have gasoline in Crimea. And you see, everything has its price, including hazelnuts. But still, where is the Russian air defense? Or do our national defense forces possess the expertise to skillfully launch sophisticated targets in such a way, I mean drones, for example, or missiles, to effectively bypass them? Or where exactly did it go? Did they move it over there to where Putin's bunker is?
first of all, yes, we can see several clear manifestations right away. The first is primarily tactical, since the Russians are very, very jealous about protecting their most propaganda-significant places. That specifically includes Moscow and the surrounding Moscow region.
Kremlin's Putin? Do you remember a program like this or a column once existed?
News. Russian propaganda, yes. Yeah. And directly the personal security of the Russian dictator. And an incredibly vast amount of resources are involved in all these areas. We can see that at this current point in time, more than 70 Panzer S-1 and Panzer S-2 systems, as well as about 10 S-400 systems, are strategically deployed and concentrated in the Moscow region. Wow. And all this is despite the fact that our drones can and do show significant results specifically in strikes on the Moscow region. Another aspect is the shortage of resources, specifically a shortage of means of destruction, anti-aircraft guided missiles. We saw that these specific signs and indicators began to appear as early as the end of 2024 and the beginning of 2025. By 2025, they had become so significant that such manifestations began to enter the public consciousness. At that time, the discussion was about short and medium-range systems, such as the Strela 10, various modifications of the OSA systems, and various modifications of the Buk systems. At the present moment, we see that even longer-range systems, such as the S-300 and S-400, are also experiencing a significant shortage, specifically in missile armaments. One such manifestation of this situation is the emergence of evidence that the Russians are using missiles that were manufactured under the Indian contract, directly for your own needs.
Well, let's hope Russia continues to slide into the abyss. The worse it is for them, the better it is for us. And this is a fact. And no one invited them here, no one called them. They themselves ran into Ukraine. Joining us in the studio was Vadim Kushnikov, an analyst from the Militarny portal. Mr. Vadim, thank you very much for the interesting conversation. I think that on a Sunday evening, these are quite positive news for us, even though we still face the threat of a possible massive strike from Russia. Therefore, we ask all our viewers, if an air raid alert begins, please head to a shelter immediately. Please take good care of yourselves, your own lives, and the lives of all your loved ones. Thank you for doing that.